He started as an entrepreneur when he was 3 years old, right here in Victoria, sometime in World War II, as far as I know. As you just heard, in 1969, he was Canada's women's volleyball coach. By 1976, he became Mr. Volleyball on CBC, telling the world about that sport as a color commentator, and carried it on for the next 3 more Olympics. Sometime in the late 70s, he was by some booth. It was manned by a famous Toastmaster by the name of Sandy Robertson. He'd been in Toastmasters for 30 years, 20 years at that time. So he approached the gentleman, or Sandy, and he said, kept talking to Sandy, and Sandy said, come to Toastmasters. We can show you how to do better presentations. That's what he was looking for, how to do a better presentation. So of course he joined Toastmasters. Well, he must have been like a house on fire at the time, because by the time 1980 rolled around, he was representing District 21 in a world speaking contest in Milwaukee. Sadly, he didn't win. But I give you a toast to Mr. Vic Lindo.
Here, to Vic.
Thank you.
Now, it gives me great pleasure on this RRTN TV to welcome Mr. Lindo as the guest speaker of the Dan Doherty talk show. Did you know that he is a 3-time Hall of Famer? He's in the Hall of Fame of BC, he's the Volleyball Hall of Fame, and he's their local Victoria Hall of Fame. And you can find that all online. So let's give a great welcome to Vic. He's a coach, consultant, public speaker, and Toastmaster extraordinaire, Mr. Vic Lindo.
Welcome to the show, Vic.
Thank you, Dan.
It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
So many people in Victoria have seen you over the years, but through the magic of the internet and the railroads, the television channel, we can spread your word even further. Because I know that you have an important message for us. Now, I know that you, after participating in the International Speaking Championships for Toastmasters, you started to move around on the professional speaker circuit. What was that like?
Well, after you perform at that level, you're looking around and saying, I'm wondering if this message would pay. Would people pay you to speak? And I started to speak for CanSpeak, which was an agency that booked me, and I would get speeches once a month at a variety of different groups, everything from the contractors group to the I remember the union group up in Vernon. So a variety of different groups that I would speak to. The biggest thing was to figure out, how do you relate to so many different groups? One message: edutainment. Make it educational and entertaining.
All right. Well, let's find out what some of the characteristics of that kind of a role are. How one moves from being an amateur or even somebody just doing presentations at work to actually getting paid for it. So give me the crux of your approach to professional speaking. What was involved in making the transition from someone doing presentations to professional, more on the internal side, as opposed to just that they write you a check?
Well, first I looked around and said, what's a subject that people are interested in? One of the subjects that I determined was time management. People wanted to find out how to manage their time more effectively. They wanted to know what do high-level performers do? They'd like to know, how is it that athletes are so profoundly successful? What do they do that I can do? So I was relating what I had already learned in my sport business, and then related it to the various audiences. Then it becomes absolutely critical to determine who your audience is and do the preparation about what do they want to hear. One of the techniques that, when I was working with Art Charlton, what we did is we would get the host to send us the name of 5 people that we could interview and find out what they would be interested in. And that way I had an idea of what the audience was about, and I could relate directly to what they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems really critical that you would have making that connection. So sure enough, you've got something to talk about, but then when you make it relevant to them, that's worth paying for, because then you're actually adding some value.
Well, you could even mention their names.
Right.
Very often,
Yes, you can name drop into it.
very often I would mention the names. And if I didn't have the chance to do that in advance, I would go around. I remember one time I was doing a breakfast meeting, and I was going around and sitting at all the different tables for breakfast. And I said, well, what would you like to hear from the speaker today? And most of them didn't know I was the speaker. And they go, I don't know. So they would tell me something, and I would, okay. And then finally, the person who was MC said, well, where's our speaker? and so I went around to many of the different tables, getting a handle on who my audience was.
And so some of those people then were surprised.
They were quite surprised.
I've had that experience. Yoshi did that at an event I was at. A gentleman you know, major business.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
University leader in Japan. And he asked me, what would you want to hear? So I really felt honored by that. So that's a good technique to actually check in with your audience, even in the moment. So what kind of impact then would a person's belief system have? I'm thinking of that transition of going from amateur to professional, and they, it's got to involve believing you can be up on stage. So what kind of impact?
Well,
does your
I
belief system have?
think the first thing is that many Toastmasters have to recognize that they've learned sound, basic fundamentals and how to present, but they have to take it to another step. And after you've completed your Toastmasters material, it's almost like you need to take a 2 or 3 year master's degree in what am I going to do to be a professional speaker. And that means preparation, 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 and find a subject that you can be absolutely passionate about and be passionate. But as Art Charlton says, it's a job. Mm-hmm. If you want to be a professional speaker, you take it on as though it's a job. Mm-hmm. One of my clients right now was a gold medalist in the 2008 Olympics. And he's a public speaker. He was the coxswain for the 2008. He's got a gold medal. But he still, every Thursday and Friday, 3 47-minute sessions, he has to do what we call mining. So what areas can I go in and talk to? Who can I follow up on? So he has to approach it exactly like a business. That's part one. Part two, he is a member of National Speakers Bureau, which is a professional speakers bureau. Well, guess what? He has to coach them on how to get engagements for him, which is what he was doing last week. And he was explaining some of the areas that he could speak on, and they go, oh, that's interesting. So even if you get an agency, you still have to work at it.
Right. So you've got to be in control of that. So it sounds like making the decision and starting to pursue those different avenues and really taking responsibility for it, making sure, don't leave it up to somebody else. So what can someone do to help start to shift that belief system once because I can see that that's a big shift. You say it takes 1, 2, 3 years even to get your brain over there.
You better find out what you're passionate about, what you can be an expert in. Get the book, The Millionaire Messenger, and start following the program. And make sure you have a mentor or a coach to keep you on track. I mean, even though Bryant was the coxswain in the 2008 Olympics, the gold medal, and the silver medalist in England in the Olympics in 2012, he had a coach that showed up for their practices every day and made sure that they trained. Well, he wants to be a great public speaker. He needs to have a coach to make sure he's showing up every day. And
Right.
one of those coaches is his wife, who works with him to make sure that he's staying on track and doing the mining.
Sounds like he's got a system set up, so he knows about coaching for sports. He can transfer that knowledge into coaching for his next profession, plus he's got family behind him. Probably builds up some other sports.
One of the areas that I've often liked to talk about is the characteristics of high-level performers, because we all have the characteristics of high-level performers, just maybe fleetingly. Sometimes we get it. It's to have it on a regular basis. And one of them is foresight and the ability to carry out long-range planning. If I'm talking to somebody that wants to be a professional public speaker, I take them through, let's get a picture of you performing. But the one that's most interesting is you have to be prepared to take risks. I was speaking to one of my clients last night in North Carolina, and he's a runner. And I said, you have to be prepared to go out there in that next 1,500 meters and find out what it's like to die, like to press the limit.
Yeah.
Because what's happened is that he's been doing incremental improvements rather than saying, I can make a quantum leap.
Making that big jump. Is there anyone you felt that's been a hero for you or an exemplar who's made that leap? Somebody that you
Well, I mean,
or...
Peter Legge does a great job. Peter Legge, as he said to me, he said when he had good background in stand-up comedy, he said that really toughened job. Tony Robbins is exceptional. Zig Ziglar is exceptional. Brian Tracy does a good job. These are some of the people that I've observed.
And there's some great videos you can look at on YouTube and the internet to
Well,
get some examples of that.
Yeah, Carmen Gallo's book, Talk Like TED, he's taken and analyzed all of the top TED speakers to see what it is that they do that makes a difference. And I have the book, and now I have all the videos for each of the chapters, and I'm studying them and watching them so that I can get better.
All right. Well, thank you. That's great. And I really appreciate these insights that you brought along. So there's some places that people can get some more information. There's a couple of names that people can look for. And you mentioned TED Talks, which was really, that's like our modern Gettysburg Address. It used to be the Gettysburg Address was the ultimate speech. But nowadays, with the internet, TED Talks is a way that you can have like a public speaking course already available for you. So I hope that you continue successfully with your professional career and that people watching this will also be able to take that and move their career forward.
Thank you.